Life isn't perfect, and neither are we.
Nope. But we know how to face our fears
And have some fun.
and talk about all the messiest things of life.
Like the messiest things.
Get connected to yourself, get connected to others, and get connected to the life right in front of you.
This is The Connected Life with Justin and Abi.
That's me.
That's you.
And you.
You know what?
We
One of my
wish you a Merry Christmas.
favorite
We wish you a Merry Christmas.
things about Christmas
We wish you a Merry Christmas.
is
What? I thought it'd be funny if I started at the same time as you with my own thing.
yeah. It's not your singing. Though I love your looks.
It's not your singing that I love your looks. That's funny.
One of the things that I love about Christmas that you absolutely hate.
Oh.
You loathe.
Ooh, I'm interested.
Is the out of control Christmas films where everything's falling apart for a family.
Oh my gosh.
And crazy
I hate
shenanigans
them.
are happening all over the place. And I love them. I want to watch the funny Christmas films like National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, things like that. And I'm like, hey, want to watch this with me? You're like, oh.
I'm not as much a demon as being like, no, you go ahead and watch that on your own.
But that's your emotional response internally. I can feel you.
Oh, I hate those movies. I hate all movies where everything's falling apart the whole time. I'm like, that's what life is like. Why do you want to escape your life into feeling like everything's crap?
But I do love Christmas films besides those
Maybe
ones.
people feel validated by those films. Maybe they're like,
yeah, that is my life. Everything is falling apart. I can't get the toys for my kids they want.
They always have good endings, but I'm always like, I
Grandma
think what
fell
I
asleep
hate
in her
about
mashed
them
potatoes.
is they're always like powerless in it.
Yeah.
Like they're like powerless to some craziness. And I'm like, oh, be powerful. Just have the conversation. Just do the confrontation.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting.
Just set boundaries.
I would say the all-time greatest film of our Christmas film of
all time
is Home Alone.
Well,
and I know that some people would say it's what?
It's a Wonderful Life.
It's a Wonderful Life. But they didn't have Kevin McAllister back then.
You're hysterical. I mean, I think this would be like a fun audience poll to do.
Yeah.
Is like, do you like Home Alone or It's a Wonderful Life better?
Yeah. It's a good question. If you want, you can go bomb Abby's page and she'll maybe have that questionnaire up over there on Instagram.
Yeah, I'd love to find out. So you would argue for Home Alone?
I would argue for Home Alone. Elf is it's close too.
Oh, yeah. Those are like the three holiday classics.
Well, you know.
Have we watched It's a Wonderful Life?
The Christmas Story is a big one for people too.
Oh.
But it's
old people.
Yeah, old people.
People older than me. I hated that. One time you made me watch that as an adult, and I thought, what is this
so
crap?
Good. It's so good. Anyways, the reason.
Yeah, you know what? It's so good.
What?
It's so good to show a dysfunctional family. Who wants to be like, yes, let's hang out with a family that's all dysfunctional together?
It shows the average American family. Everything that happens to all of us is like, this is our lives.
I know. That's why it's depressing.
In the end, though, it works out.
I just want to see good families.
Yeah. Well,
or interesting. Like, at least in Home Alone, dysfunctional family, but it's like more funny than like, this just feels real.
Right. You mean like when they're all like, You're a real jerk, you know that, Kevin? And yelling at a little boy who accidentally spilled milk.
I know. I feel bad every time I watch that. Maybe it's because that's a small part of the movie. It's very small. The family dysfunction is not the main part of the movie.
Macaulay Culkin, it was that moment in the film that broke him. That's why he went on to be what he was. Anyways. Okay, hey, the reason I'm talking about this is we're getting into the whole nostalgia of Christmas first off. Just getting you in the mood for what we're about to talk about and just like, hey, Christmas, warm fuzzies and hot cocoa. And
guess what we did last week on the podcast?
We announced $1,000 giveaway.
Ooh.
Because we're trying to actually help people connect with the idea of giving.
And dreaming up
ways to love
other people. I think it's so fun. And so the giveaway is we want you to go to our website and write in there's a place on the Connected Life on our website, justinandabby.com. That's justinandabi.com. You can write in the way you would want to give $1,000 to somebody. And it doesn't have to be cash. You could buy them something with that $1,000.
Right.
It's just,
so
you
the
have
idea
to
is you're
dream up.
connecting with someone who's in need that you want to be able to take care of and love on and bless, and come up with maybe some unique ways or fun ways, or just, we really want to hear a cool story of how someone was able to take that money and give it to somebody that was in a place of need
in an impactful way.
Yeah. And then the follow-up is that everyone who got to send in and everything, and then someone gets chosen, they all get to hear about the actual story.
Yeah.
Because our goal is to bring the person on and
interview the people we give the money to.
Mm-hmm.
And see how it went, how their Christmas went.
So no pressure, but we have to create an entire episode around you. So please, do not drop the ball on this.
Anyway, so write in, because we're going to be picking the winner for this contest on December 16th. So that you have time to actually get it to
Thursday,
them by Christmas.
December 16th, we will choose a winner. We will not announce the winner until after Christmas.
Yeah.
Because we want to make sure that the people are given the stuff and they don't accidentally hear it in case they're listeners or something like that. But so that's going to be really fun. And also, speaking of the giveaways, as of today, the recording of this podcast, we are going to be this afternoon working on our delightful giveaway to a family that we love. And I'm so excited for our time together on that.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. I've gotten several people requesting a health update from me. So I thought we'd just do that real quick. For those of you who've been following us for a long time, I got very, very sick a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And we ended up going to Spain. It's a pretty wild story of how that happened. All the pieces fell into place. And Spain was miraculous. It was one of the best trips me and you have ever been on.
2020, March of 2020.
Yeah. We got back right before countries closed, right before COVID.
Yeah, the day that they were announcing lockdowns on foreign travelers. And they're about to lock Spain down.
Yeah. And so we got back in time, and then that trip dramatically changed my life. I mean, the fact that I have the energy to work.
Yeah. It's a miracle, because you couldn't walk around the block.
No, I couldn't walk around half a block.
Yeah.
I laid on the couch all day, every day, doing nothing. My brain felt completely incapacitated. I couldn't think. I was in excruciating pain. I mean, everything about my life was very, very dark and rough and full of despair. And so Spain dramatically changed my life, and I have been so thankful for that. I've seen lots of improvements. But one of the things that has been hard is I've still had a lot of stomach issues. And so we started working with another doctor for that part. I still love Dr. Hilu in Spain. It changed my life. I still work with him.
Yeah.
But specifically to go after my stomach issues, I started working with another doctor. And we got the test results back, and I have lots of infections in my stomach, which is delightful.
Really difficult ones too.
And then I have one that is a pretty intense stomach infection, and needs to be taken care of so that it doesn't become a bigger problem. And so we started researching the best ways to help that infection, and found a place in Mexico that does a treatment process for that. And so this has all happened very, very fast. Basically, once we found out the test results, the doctor was like, you have to get this infection taken care of ASAP.
Immediately. It's very, could be life-threatening.
Yeah. It's a life-threatening infection. I don't feel threatened yet. But so we ended up researching treatment centers, found a treatment center in Mexico, emailed them this weekend. They said that they could get us in Monday. So we are rearranging our whole life in a rush, trying to get everything done.
So
there's lots
as
of
you're
things
listening
I have
to this podcast, we will be on a flight.
Yes.
Headed south.
Yes. And so, I mean, it has made our lives a little bit chaotic. There's a lot of things to do and prepare, and things I have to do for my body and order and all that kind of stuff.
Really, it's an excuse to party in Tijuana.
That's not a real thing.
No.
Nope.
Not at all.
And so we will be going for this procedure. If you believe in prayer, I would love your prayers. Just because I'm really hoping. I've heard a lot of people go through this and it dramatically helped them. That is what I am praying for. I am praying that I will be able to eat again. I have such a restricted diet and still so many issues with my stomach around that and not absorbing nutrients. So I will say this, before all of this came up, I started feeling that feeling of I need to have faith that I'll be able to eat again. I remember thinking, like, I've been listening to Mike Todd. I think he's got some really great stuff to talk about faith. He's a pastor. And as I was listening to him, I was like, oh, it's easy to get lost in fear or hopelessness. Like, this is just how it's always going to be, or just normalcy. Like, you acclimate. Like, it's been 3 years that I've been on this crazy restricted diet, not being able to eat anything. And I think it was just like, oh, maybe this is just what life will be. Yeah. And so I remember listening to this talk about faith. He wrote a book called Crazy Faith. It's only crazy till it happens. Mm-hmm. And it just reminded me to start like visualizing. I've done this for the last 13 years. I've really worked on, when I find something, a roadblock, visualizing a future without that. And that's what I did when I was so sick, is I would go yell pray. And really what I was doing in yell praying was visualizing a life that was different. I was like, I will be able to work again. I will be able to hang out with friends again. I will be able to, like, I was like, that is what I meant to be able to live. I meant to be able to be engaged and involved and all that kind of stuff. And then a lot of the things that I walked and declared and prayed have happened. And we've seen that happen over and over again. Even our house, we had a vision board. Yeah. With so many pictures. I mean, we had a picture of the exact layout of our master bathroom and bedroom. Yeah. On our vision board of exactly what, and we picked that picture because we liked the layout so much. And that happened to be, it wasn't like I built that into the house. It was in the house already. Yeah. So I really know that once I can see something and believe that it's possible, things change. And I remember, so I felt convicted, like I need to stop visualizing that this is what it'll always be. And I need to start visualizing that I'm going to be able to eat. I found a picture of a woman eating chocolate cake, and it's my screensaver on my phone. Everybody's like, what is your screensaver? It's me in the future smashing chocolate cake in my face. Yeah. I want to be able to eat. I mean, chocolate cake would be a dream. Just regular food would be a dream. But, so I started feeling like I needed to visualize that. And then I went to this group where we broke into small groups and talked about goals and stuff like that. And when I was sharing about wanting to have more faith about eating, one of the girls was like, oh, I just listened to this podcast this week about this girl who couldn't eat anything for a couple years, and now she can eat everything again. And it felt so encouraging to me, because it was like, oh, wait, I've actually heard stories like that before of people couldn't eat anything and then like they grow out of that. That's not a permanent lifestyle. Right. That was just like my body did this and then it reset. And then I ended up going, when we went to Hawaii for Thanksgiving, one of my friends there who in the past couldn't eat tons of things because of allergies, could eat everything. And she was just like, yeah, I don't know. My body just reset and now I can eat things and I don't have any problems. And it's not causing me any issues. And I just had never thought about that. So when this procedure came up, because not only will it help the infection, hopefully, that I have, it has the chance to help a lot of the other issues. Because a lot of the issues in my body come from not having good enough bacteria in my stomach. So this is supposed to dramatically help my body's ability to heal my gut. And so we're going to see if it helps. Anyway, it's a 4-month, we go down for the beginning part of the treatment and then we finish. It's 4 months after that we do in Redding. Right. So, for that way people will be like, they'd want to know next weekend, did it work? I don't know. It'll be 4 months before we really know what's happening. And then after that, we won't know if it sticks or works or whatever for a little bit, but we're very excited.
Yeah, extremely excited. And there's a lot of hope, which is something that we want to talk about today, even in this episode, is hope in this season. Because even in how the situation unfolded, I know like a couple months ago, I was in a prayer place of like, no, this will shift. I don't know how, but it will shift. It wasn't a prayer in a posture of fear or anything. It was a declaration of like, I'm done with this. This all has to begin to change. And it's really cool watching like how things begin to slowly fall into place as you especially get out of the place of fear that blinds you to what is working for you anyways and gets you into a place of peace. And you're just like, okay, we're going to see transformation happen. But I feel so much hope in the season. I have for a while, even when things didn't like have practical access to what I thought or needed or wanted. I was just like, no, but I have hope because there's a really good dad involved inside of our story that transcends all of our humanity. And he wants to consistently be part of each part of our journey as we get out from behind our fear that creates our walls between us and him and go, hey, I'm not going to have fear here. I'm going to have direct connection. And I want to actually hear and see how you are participating in my personal story. A lot of times I hear people have a lot of trouble having hope that God is in their story because they're trying to assess other people's stories and where they're at in their seasonal journey of their exploration. And one of the things that I decided inside of my life is that I will not assess my personal story based on someone else's personal story and try to mentally negotiate like how God is or isn't involved in my life. I'm just like, Dad, I don't know about the other people and how they get taken care of and what's going on for them. I just know that I'm here to sit down and believe that you're really good and you're really involved, and I want to know more about it right now. I want to be awakened to the realities of you stepping into my story on a daily basis. And so that's really the posture that I've taken. I think as we're coming into this Christmas season right here, like one of the staples of what it signifies is how God came to jump into our story and say, hey, I really actually love you. Every part of your world that feels so much like you're abandoned and you're alone and you're orphaned, I want to correct all of that. I want you to know that I care about your human condition so much so that I'm going to put on skin and jump into the game and just be like, I am here one-on-one with you to experience your story. And I think that that's something radically powerful. When Christmas comes up, I'm always rocked by the idea that there's a greater creator that's chasing me down and been chasing me down, going, I want to find a way to get to them in the places of their hearts that are scared and disconnected and believe that they're so alone. And I'm willing to sacrifice for the thing that I created. And like, that's radical. The idea, like if you really sit down and think about something like as humans, so oftentimes we live for what feels like slave masters in life. This idea that like I'm born to serve something else and I feel so small and feeble and stuff, but our creator's like, I love you so much that I'm going to create a sacrifice that transcends any sacrifice you could ever give to participate in your story because I want you to have hope knowing that I love you and your life matters.
Yeah, I love that so much. We're actually, so we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about Christmas and the hope and faith that we feel in it. If you have different spiritual beliefs, you can listen and enjoy our thoughts about our own or, wait till next week's episode, whatever you want to do. But just we want to talk candidly about our own. For me, Christmas has always been the most hopeful time of the year. And in a weird way, it hasn't been hopeful because I have had no pain or because actually Christmas is like one of my emotionally least favorite holidays. Like I avoid a lot about Christmas.
Yeah, like the Christmas tree I was putting up the other day.
Yes. I avoid a lot about Christmas. But something that I felt my whole life is I felt like Christmas made it okay for me to be wherever I was at in the process and reminded me that I wasn't on my own. So I think about the Israelites, when Jesus was born, it was not a good situation with Rome.
It was not. We was all having our money stolen, and we was being raped up in here with Rome. Rome was so abusive to their people.
Yes, so they were very, very oppressed, and they'd been oppressed for years, and they didn't. Besides this hope for a Messiah, which they hadn't heard from, like there was no prophetic words happening. There was nothing happening. It was just hoping for 400 years, which I cannot fathom, because I see how much things change in like one generation.
Right.
And so to be able to hold on to a hope for 400 years is really wild to me. But I think I could always identify with that feeling of being oppressed and in slavery. And that feeling of not seeing, like when I was younger, I was like, I don't see a way out. Like I can't see how anything could get better. I can't make my life get better. I can't stop this pain. I can't stop the bleeding all around me. I can't, like, I felt so, like, I identified so much with the trauma that they were in, and that belief of like, I don't know how to get myself out.
Yeah.
I don't have a way to get myself to love and peace and hope and joy. And so the idea of like Christmas feels so powerful to me, because it's like humans didn't have to figure out a way. They didn't have to be really adult. They didn't have to like brainstorm it up. How do we save ourselves? It was God showed up on the planet when they needed something. Beyond what we could have imagined, and he showed up in weakness and in shame. Like I love the lineage of Jesus. If you look at it, there's only 4 women mentioned in his lineage, which is remarkable that women are mentioned in his lineage,
right? Because
it was such a patriarchal society, and God was always doing things to empower women inside of that society. And so he has 4 women listed in his genealogy, and they're all like very scandalous. Like one of them was Rahab. She was a prostitute who hid Israelite spies in her house and then lied about it and helped them escape. One of them was Tamar, who actually like her husband died. And so then she's supposed to marry his brother. He died. So then she's supposed to wait for the youngest brother to grow up. And back in the day, marriage and children were the only way that you had status and security in life as a woman. And so the dad actually refused, like hid the third son because he was afraid he would die also. I get it. But
this woman is cursed.
So she ended up... she ends up soliciting her dad, like pretending to be a prostitute. It's her father-in-law. I shouldn't mention that. It's helpful. She ends up soliciting her father-in-law, gets him to sleep with her, gets pregnant. That is in Jesus's family line.
Right.
And then you have Ruth. Now, the interesting thing about Ruth, I love it, is because so she ends up marrying Boaz, and it's a story about redemption. Her father, and wait, why are you smiling at me over there? Are you cute?
Nothing.
Okay. Yeah. She ends up losing her husband, and her mother-in-law loses her husband, and they end up going, and she ends up with Boaz, who ends up being this redeemer. He marries her. He's financially fine. They have a child. Obviously, now they are in the genealogy of Jesus. It's kind of crazy because Boaz actually, I think his, I think he came from, ready for this? The family line where Rahab was in it. So it would have been normal for him, because Ruth like comes up and she like lays next to him, and it's like kind of scandalous, but he's like totally covers her in it. And isn't, I'm like, oh, because there was already scandal in his family line. He was like not freaked out by it. But what I'm trying to say, back in the day, scandal was like, religion was so pervasive that scandal could destroy your life forever. Yeah. And so here we have all of these people, and then Bathsheba, who David has an affair with, and then she gets pregnant and then murders her husband. And so you look at this and you're like, all of these women who had trauma in their stories, who were not the high class, purest line, perfect people. It's all of these women who have sordid histories are chosen to represent. And then Mary, who, then everybody thinks she's a slut.
Yeah.
Like, I love it too, because I grew up in the institution of church made it feel like sexuality sin was the worst thing ever and that you'd die. And then you look at the family line of Jesus and you're like, it is a very sordid. You have a prostitute, you have Mary who looks like she's, unwed mother. You have Ruth who's being scandalous, and then you have Tamar who acts like a prostitute to get her father-in-law to sleep with her. It's like a wild. And so I look at things like this and I think, oh my gosh, I love God. I love that he picks messy and imperfect people to be a part of his family line. And then he's born into a shameful circumstance. Yeah. I think I've said this before. I'll say it 500 times. I've worked with people actually who are a part of that shame culture around sexuality in the Middle East. And they could be stoned for having sex outside of marriage. That was very real. Yeah. And so a lot of them
it's a pretty high stakes thing. Mary looking like she's pregnant out of wedlock.
Yeah, no, it was like they probably...
And if Joseph didn't have the dream that he had, he easily could have been like, no,
he legally was allowed to kill her.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't understand the high stakes of the Christmas story. Yeah. He had all legal right in that day to actually kill her.
And we know, I don't know if anyone's ever experienced shunning. Cancel culture is a great example of it. But God, yes. If you think about cancel culture being what was against Mary and Joseph, because they were the shamed people.
They should have been canceled.
They should have been canceled. It's true, because they were doing the thing that is the most shame. They probably had a scarlet letter on them in society because of it. And so Jesus was born into a shameful situation. He was born looking second class. Yes. He wasn't born into a sought after religious leader's life. Yeah. He wasn't born into a high standing noble place.
Yeah, a nobility, some king or something. Like, he came from the king and he came to save us all. It's like, no, this baby that was delivered in a manger. It basically, there was fecal matter everywhere, probably because of the animal dung, and had to be cleaned up and stuff around there. It was like this lowly situation with a history, a background that didn't say that a noble king should come from that.
And then you look at it though, and you think, he crawled into my shame with me. Yeah. He crawled into the places where my spirit is poor, the places where I don't have enough, the places where I don't know if I can be enough, he climbed into that experience with me to experience humanity. He didn't come and experience just the greatness of life. He came and experienced the pain of what life is like on the planet. And, at some point, he doesn't have a dad. Like Joseph, his dad is not written about. So we know he experienced grief because by the time he died, Joseph was nowhere.
Joseph is up and disappeared.
Yes.
So we all are assuming he's clearly dead.
At
what time he's died, we don't know. But here he is.
Or he ran away, and it's a very honoring account. Wouldn't that be funny?
He went and hid in a cave.
He's like, I can't take it.
There's too much shame. I'm out. Peace. Or my son will not listen to me because he's apparently God.
Yeah. And so you look at this and you see this God being who chose the lowliest place, who chose to come to a people group who were low.
Right. Super oppressed. Again, it wasn't like he came to the Romans. He came to the people group who were in such deep squalor, really, at that point of that much oppression.
And I felt so, my whole life was like, I've always felt very, very, very connected to, there's whatever pain I have in life, whatever place I'm wanting to overcome something still, wherever I'm like, like there's parts of my heart in this season that I'm like, God, I need you to heal these things. Like there's parts of me that I can't heal myself. I cannot. I mean, there's lots of things that we do to agree with love and life. And there's a process you can engage your creator with.
Right.
But I'm like, I need God. And so whenever I feel that need for God, or whether it's like you're facing a fear, I need God to help me be able to see that there's a way around this, or you're facing a mountain in your life, something that you don't know how it can change. The idea that Christmas is God broke through to get to us, so that we would never have to feel alone again, so that we would know what it's like to have Emmanuel, God with us.
There's something so peace-giving at the, when they say peace on earth and goodwill towards men in the song, and you think about it, you go, man, there is something so peaceful about the idea that I get to let go of all of my need to perform and try to fight to fix myself or change everything. And I get to engage in a heart of surrender and just begin to go, yeah, but you're hunting me down. You're in my story. I'm going to let go of everything that says that I need to control this circumstance. I'm not talking about not participating in the story of my life, but that emotional urge and that need to have to fight my way out of almost an impossible maze, right? Because like you said earlier, there are times where we hit crossroads in our life where it feels so impossible for us to know how to fix something, solve something, heal something, change something in our lives. And it's not about giving up. It's about this surrendering of like, hey, I'm going to surrender to the idea that I can't just do everything alone, and accept the beauty that there is somebody that really wants to participate in my story and understands my story. And I think for me, that's one of the places that I get the most peace, reflecting back to like, yeah, he really understands our story, our human condition. It's not like there's someone who created us who's like, what the hell's wrong with you? I made
Why
you.
Why can't you figure this out?
You're so broken. What's wrong? Get it together. It's like, no, I proved that I understood you before I entered into your humanity, your human skin. But you would never believe that. So I entered into human skin so that you could see that I'm actually fully understand the human condition. I was fully God and fully human in that situation, in your experience. Isn't that mind-blowing to think that he would go, I fully want to embrace the entirety of your experience. I'm going to submit myself completely. I don't have to, but I'm going to submit myself fully to your experience and everything that you would feel and go through, just so that you would know that you're not alone, that you matter, and that there's hope for your life. Yeah.
It's amazing. I think about, so I've been in trauma counseling for probably like the last couple of years. And it has dramatically impacted my life. It's like I am understanding myself on a whole new level, and my story and why I do the things I do. And there's two things when I think about learning about trauma that have impacted me about God. And the first thing is that so much of the healing for trauma is connecting to presence, like a safe, regulated presence. A presence that feels like you can let down your guard. And the more I've learned about the nervous system, the more I've understood, like half the time when I'm in church and I'm worshiping and I get this feeling of peace over my body, it's actually the same sensation as when I'm regulating to somebody who is a safe person.
Yeah.
And I've begun to realize that connecting to God, so attunement and validation is one of the ways when we feel understood and we feel like someone is with us. That is a huge part of the healing process. When we feel that our reality is validated. Yeah. It is a huge part. And so we have God who came, and I always thought it was beautiful, like Emmanuel, God with us. I was like, that's amazing. So I'm not alone. But now going through trauma, and where the answer is not alone. Right.
The answer is that I'm no longer alone, is presence.
As that now is the answer, I'm like, oh my gosh, God provided a solution to trauma in himself.
Yeah.
And so much of now when I look at church experience, so much of that is literally us lots of times when people express having a connection point with God, some part of that is their body and nervous system coming back to love and safety and protection and letting go of all of the other things that they've been holding. The other thing I've learned about trauma is, excuse me, is there's so many reasons why we do what we do as humans. We all have crazy protectors to help us survive.
Right.
And sometimes they can become really messy. You know, like I can use anger to help me survive something, but that can create chaos.
Yeah.
A lot. And so now whenever I look at people who are doing destructive decisions, who have addictions, who whatever, I'm like, oh, you're in pain, you're in trauma, and you don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And now that I recognize so many of like, oh, I'm doing this weird thing because I have trauma. Oh, this thing is because I have trauma. Oh, this thing. And then when you understand how your brain and your body function, like I'm not always even consciously choosing reactions out of trauma. When I look at and understand trauma, I'm like, oh my gosh, God, there's no breakthrough in psychology that God didn't know.
Yeah.
So he's up there looking at us, watching. I remember growing up thinking like he's always mad when I make mistakes, or he's always wishing I could do better or know better or figure it out already. And now I'm like, he's actually never like that. He's looking at us being like, oh, I see that you're having that trauma response, and I'm wanting to be with you and get to you inside of that so that you don't have to keep responding the same way, so that you don't have to keep fighting the same way, so that you don't have to keep, going around the mountain the same way.
Yeah. Self-protecting.
Yeah. And so the idea of God with us, Emmanuel, who came to break through, to be with us, who sees us in our pain, who saw Israel in her pain, in her oppression, and was like, I'm going to make a way out of this for you.
I think about when you're talking earlier about where Israel is at. Think of like if Israel is a person, an individual, because I see that God sees individuals and then collective groups as one individual. Like I see like the idea that America is a human, right? And it's a collective human of all of our beings. Like if you look at it allegorically and conversationally, like he has this conversation with this person named Israel, and Israel is in that place of darkness, of hopelessness. This one person named Israel has been like, I don't have an ability any longer to believe that you're talking to me. I can't hear you suddenly. Like if you 30,000 foot view, this person has 400 years of not hearing from God. So they're going, I can't hear anything. Probably a lot of them are like Israel's going, I don't even know if God is real in some ways. I'm holding on to my last shreds of hope, and I'm believing the expectation is that you're going to show up as a badass king waving a sword and destroying these Roman oppressors. And,
absolutely.
And he comes into the scenario, he's like, it's not going to be what you expected, kiddo, but it's going to be what you needed. Like, Israel, I know that you're completely hopeless, and I'm going to come down and I'm going to do a really big display that forever echoes out in the minds and hearts of all of humanity. And
it's going to be bigger than you could imagine.
Because it's going to transcend one season of a king that rules for 100 years or whatever, or 80 years or 90 years. It's going to
transcend all eternity.
But it's going to transcend all eternity. And also, what it's going to do is it's going to rewire your insides, because he comes and he goes, yeah, your external circumstances aren't necessarily going to be fixed. And a bunch of you are probably going to be martyred by even talking about me. Like people will probably end up killing you.
Yeah.
But I'm going to give you something that's a type of strength that cannot be earned externally. I'm going to impart something inside of you that is a hope that can't be beaten out of you, and a joy and a peace that can't be stolen. Like you literally, when you connect to me, you will feel fulfilled regardless, rich or poor, slave or free. It doesn't matter. I'm going to be able to be a source to you for all of time.
Yeah.
And there's something so radically powerful about the idea that he said, I will not deal with external circumstances as the number one solution. The first and foremost solution will be a heart solution. And it'll radicalize or revolutionize everything about how you do life if you'll follow me in it.
Yeah. He came back and showed how to treat humanity, not how to conquer the villain.
Yeah.
He actually came to break down villains. I mean, he was healing Roman soldiers' kids. Like, it wasn't about villainizing a people
No.
group.
He should have looked into like a Roman soldier's face and been like, "No, your kid can die. I don't really care." Like, it based on what they wanted, the king that they wanted would have had no regard for Rome at all and would have just been out to slay Rome. But instead, he's like, "No, I see Rome as much as I see Israel right here. I see the heart of all of them and what they're all really needing. And I want everyone to be touched by this."
You know, I think about also just
it
Mary.
wasn't elitist. That's what's really freaking powerful.
Totally. No, he came to change the social dynamics. Like,
structures
the
are
best,
being collapsed.
Yeah. He's like, the poor are rich. Blessed are those who are poor in spirit. And then the last will be first, and the first will be last. And he came and, you know, he hung out with the lower class. I mean, he got ridiculed for who he hung out with and what he was doing. And
it's crazy when you think of Matthew, the tax collector, and you think about him and other tax collectors that he hung around with and surrounded himself with. These were the people that were traitors to the community. Like, they were perpetuating oppression and making money off it. They were benefiting off the oppression of their own people. And he's like, yeah, I came for them too. I'm going to surround myself with them, and they're going to be part of my story.
He came to break the villain mentality.
Oh, and
like, and the way that we villainize and separate ourselves from each other.
Yeah, shatter all sense of hierarchy and say all are all.
Yeah.
Or there's no Jew or Gentile. Like, he goes through and he's like, there's not, all are all in Christ.
Yes. Not male, not female, not slave, not free, not, yeah.
Yeah. And so he comes and he shatters pride, and he actually gives a doorway into humility.
Yeah. It's pretty radical. The Christmas, for anybody who will humble themselves to have needs. Yeah. To say, I need a savior. I need someone to help me conquer this mountain. I need help.
Right.
And it's hard to be that. It's nice to feel self-sufficient, but anyone who has needs would love the Christmas story. You know what I mean? And I think about, the thing I always think about is Mary. God comes to her and is like, you're going to give birth to the son. He'll save the world. And I'm like, what would you even be thinking at that point? But I know for sure.
You're cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
Yeah. You meet with an angel. You're like, what does this even mean? Like, you have no idea what it means. But I'm for sure that she didn't think it would mean then traveling for the census, then not having a place to give birth at, not having all of her family with her. I mean, like, I don't know how much of her family was with her.
She probably didn't imagine that would also mean that at a very young age, her son would be tortured to death.
Yeah. Or that or that they'd have to move multiple times.
Yeah.
To escape him being killed at 2.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so it often gives me hope for my own story.
Right. Because when you're in the middle of it and you're like, I don't think you're here. No, actually, all these unexpected
Remember
things.
Those promises you made? I don't think they're going to happen. This does not look like what I thought it was going to be. And then you're like, no, but like, Jesus came to change everything for every human from there on out. It's, I mean, his life rippled far beyond what she could have imagined, but it wasn't easy. And it wasn't like, oh, everything just fell into place. It wasn't like, oh, I got the best hotel when I went to Bethlehem, you know?
It's like, God's with me. We got this amazing hotel.
Can
and
you
people served us up a bunch
so
of food.
Confused?
I know God's so awesome and with me on this. It's like, wait, I thought I had the savior of the world. There's literally no place to stay.
Totally.
We're out in the cold. The only person helping me give birth here is my husband.
I mean, there might have been other people involved.
It doesn't say anything about that. So
I
don't know.
We don't know. We don't know who was with them. Yeah. But probably a group of them had to go to the census.
No, I'm talking about in the stable.
Yeah, in the stable. We don't know.
Yeah.
Could have just been the 2 of them.
Well, that's what it seems to point towards. So inside of it, you have this experience where it's like you're suddenly feeling all alone in a story that says that God is with you.
Yeah. And how crazy is it too?
Emmanuel, God is with us.
Yeah. And how crazy is it that she then gets ostracized? God is literally in her belly, but she's probably like ostracized for
You're
being
abandoned and all alone. And
her.
it's this promise of, I'm actually with you.
There's never a circumstance where he is not with us. And that's what I love about him coming into humanity is he broke all of the rules in our heads about what a God could do or be. There's so many different I studied Greek mythology, which I loved. It was fascinating, but the concept of a sacrificial loving towards their creation God is so radical from most versions.
Yeah, of every
and a God who wants to pull people close, who wants to attach to humanity, who wants to be with them in their pain,
in their mess, not in their perfection, but like, hey, I want to assign my name to you when you, for all extensive realities, are probably not a good representation of my name.
Totally.
I will love you and I will participate you, and you'll do some really horrible stuff in your journey. And I still am going to say, yeah, but this is my child.
Yes. I mean, it goes back to his family line, like David. I always think about David and how he was a hot mess of a human. Like he was just making messes. I mean, he did murder somebody. Murder. He had a lot of things he did that was traumatic. And yet God does not remove his love and his kindness. And it just takes that ability of like, I need you.
And I think that with Christmas here on the way, as we're approaching it, and like we talked in the last episode, there's a lot of different mixed emotions about Christmas and stuff like that, as it is in the holidays regarding family stuff, all of it. But there's a time right now where you actually get to recenter yourself around this idea of Christmas and let it be, a lighthouse moment where it's a beacon of light pointing back to some higher truth, where you get to sit down and say, oh God, there's these places that feel really scary inside of me, places that feel alone, places that feel overwhelmed, places that feel unanswered. I just need to know, is it true? Are you really with me? And this is where you get to have the connection point and go, you know what? God came to be with me. There's a higher truth that God came to be with all of humanity and with me right now in the midst of my greatest messiness. And for people who have felt really disqualified throughout, we'll just say 2021, where there's probably been a lot of heartache, headaches, difficulties, where you just get to go, am I qualified though in your eyes? Am I qualified for love? Am I qualified for care? Does my life matter? Because my 2021 may have felt really difficult, but I need a reminder that I really do matter. And I'm not disposable after maybe the messes I made inside of the story.
Yeah. I remember just recently I was sitting, so for those of you who don't know, 4 years ago, I went through a very traumatic season and had trauma happen on every side, and it broke me. I honestly think I got so sick. I've told this to my friends. I think I got so sick because I think my heart broke. Like, I think I literally my heart broke and then my body broke. And so I've been on the recovery process from that process. And it wasn't just one moment. It started 4 years ago. It probably was like a couple year season of trauma after trauma after trauma everywhere I looked. But I definitely feel like I'm out of that season, out of the trauma. And now I'm just going on the the repairing process. And I remember thinking to myself the other day, like, this is so much longer and harder, the repair, than I thought it was going to be. I thought it'd just instantly be fixed. And I was feeling such deep, like, I'm so screwed up by what happened. Like, the stuff that happened 4 years ago, I honestly feel like my heart broke, and there are still pieces that I can't, like, I haven't been able to put back together.
Yeah.
I just can't. I still have pockets where I have PTSD still. So literally have pockets where I just can't react right. But, and so I remember just feeling so overwhelmed by that, so aware of that, and feeling just that emotion. And I think it just came up just recently, and I remember feeling that emotion, like, am I ever going to be put? And I don't feel that all the time, but I was feeling it this week. And then I was listening to this, to Mike Todd actually talk, and he was just talking about the mountain that you're looking at. Is that bigger? Is the fear that you're looking at, is the problem that you're looking at bigger? Because whatever you look at magnifies. And then there was just time for worship, and I just turned my gaze from the the brokenness of what happened to being like, no, I know, God, that you are the God who repairs hearts. I know that like you've done it before. Mm-hmm. You've healed my heart before. When I thought that I couldn't make it out of my childhood, you showed up. Mm-hmm. You've brought love into my life before. I think for a while I believed the lie because my mom went through a trauma at a similar age as me and she never recovered. Yep. So I think I've had this fear in the back of my head. Oh, what if that's me now too? What if I can't ever recover? And then being like, oh no, that's not real. God is the God who mends hearts. Yeah. He is the God who's involved in my story. Here are all the places I can see that he's involved in my story. Yeah. And here are all the things I know that my heart is better. My heart is more whole than it was a month ago. And it's more whole than it was 5 months ago. And it's more whole than it was a year ago. And it's more, and being like, this is who God is. He's the God who doesn't give up on our stories. Yeah. He's the God that's constantly on the healing process with us. He's the God. And I just started looking and it like literally broke. I haven't thought that since like, oh no, what if I'm too broken? Because it just shifted when I began to look like, no, this is literally who God is. He is the God who restores and redeems things. And that was my declaration when I was sick, is I was like, no, my life will be a story of redemption. I can't tell you how many times I've declared that. I've yelled it. I've cried it. I've been like, no, my life will be a story of redemption. And that means all the parts of it. And that was my story when I used to preach, was that God had brought redemption to every area of my life. And it was true. Mm-hmm. Then I went through a crazy season where everything broke and I was like, whoa. And now I'm back to like, no, every single part of my life and heart. I'll be able to eat again. I'll be able to feel whole in my heart again. I'll be able to trust people again. I'll be able to be softened again. I'll be able to all of the, I'm like, no, that is my story. And that is who God is. And he did it once and he'll do it again. And that idea of being more connected to Emmanuel, God with us, than I am connected to my problem.
So good.
It dramatically impacted me. And when I start to feel, and that's what I do, when I start to feel under it, I know that I'm engaging in the fear realm. When I start to feel hopeless or frustrated about life, I'm like, oh, I'm engaging in fear.
Yeah.
I need to get back to truth. And so I don't always feel like this crazy Emmanuel presence that just comes and wraps me up in his arms and everything's fine. I don't always feel that. But what I do feel is a truth, a knowing that I'm like, no, who is God? Who has he been to me? Who have I heard from other people that he is? What stories have I seen that is more true than these feelings that I feel? And it dramatically changes everything.
That's so good. You got so excited. I like it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. So we have Living Fully Alive is coming up. I think
we're getting flooded with people that are signing up for the announcement, the official announcement in January when it goes live. Mm-hmm. You can go to justinabby.com on the Living Fully Alive page, and when you go to checkout, you can click on like the buy now. It'll bring up a spot so you can enter in your email address, and we will send you immediately when the official opening happens, so you can jump on and get into Living Fully Alive for March.
It's a great way to retrain your heart and your mind how to connect to love and truth and understand what's going on inside of you so that you don't feel stuck and trapped in hopelessness. The more emotional intelligence I've had, the more I've understood God, the more I've understood his love, the more it's broke down the barrier between us, the more it's gotten rid of the aloneness for me. And we train people to be life consultants, and Living Fully Alive is the foundational course for that.
Prerequisite.
To be able to go into the life consulting masterclass that we teach once a year. So we recommend signing up for that. Share this with people. Rate, review, and subscribe.
Also, a little surprise gift for everyone out there that's listening. We have 2 courses that I'm going to give you a special holiday discount on right now. If you, between now and Christmas, if you get on and sign up for either the Compassion Project or the Father Series, you can get a 25% discount by using Christmas 2021.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Christmas 2021. You can go sign up for either of those. Sign someone else up. Get it as a gift for someone.
Oh, that's cool.
And Christmas 2021 is the code at checkout. The promo code
For which ones?
For the Compassion Project and the Father Series.
Wow, that's a good deal for both of them.
Yes.
I think that's the best deal we've ever given.
Yes.
That's crazy.
Okay.
Didn't know. Here we go.
Her mind.
Blew my mind.
You guys, go give love away to people for Christmas and know that you are not alone.
And make sure to register for the giveaway.
Oh, yeah. Bye now.